Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Woodbrew video. In this week's video, I'm going to be kind of setting up our brand new bandsaw. This is kind of a spur of the moment video. Molly is currently self-quarantining. She's 100% fine. She's just looking out for some of her older family members. And so it's just me at the shop. And a lot of you have been asking just to put out some form of shorter form content. I have to do this today. Well, I don't have to do it today, but I've been dying to get this done. So I figured I would put it out. It's different. It's not a project video, but if you do like it, please leave a comment below and let me know, and I'll continue trying to put out some of these smaller videos during this kind of crazy time. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. First things first, we did receive this bandsaw for free from Grizzly, and it's something that we've been dying to have in the shop for a while. To give you a little bit of specs on this, this is the G0513 anniversary model. It is a 17-inch bandsaw. It has a 2 horsepower motor that can be wired either 220 or 110. So today I'm going to show you how to wire it as 110. You're going to do it with me because I haven't done it before. So we'll be following the manual for that. And we may put this back to 220 later, but right now that's going to serve us best in the current configuration of the shop. So without further ado, let's hop into getting this thing set up. After I managed to get this thing into the shop, this is kind of currently how it sits, and this is basically how it came. You know, it had the crate on there, and then there were some boxes tucked in back here, but as it sits is basically exactly how it was shipped. It is currently bolted down or lagged down to the smaller sort of pallet, so one of the first things I'm going to do is unbolt it, but before I actually do that, we got this heavy duty mobile base, so I'm going to put it together. I'm going to roll it over here, unbolt that, and see if I can put it onto the stand. This thing is relatively heavy, but I've been able to manage it on my own just by being pretty careful. Alright, so I removed all the bolts holding this on, and I slid over the fully assembled mobile base and locked it down. I'm just going to try to scoot it onto it. Now there's going to be a gap in the middle, so I should probably find something to put down in here so that when it goes off onto it, it can roll over there and then get onto the other pads of the mobile base. So let me grab something real quick and then we'll start trying to move this thing. Okay, so I put this little metal pipe down here. It's really pretty long, but I think it'll do the job. So I'm just going to try to slide it onto the pipe, then kind of roll it back that way a bit, and then pop it up onto the other sides. Now obviously before I do this, I'm going to go ahead and say that it is so much of a better idea to wait and have multiple people help you with this. This is not the best way to do it, but I don't have anybody to help me, so this is the way we're going to get it done, and let's just see how it goes. The thing we have to be careful with is when we shimmy it, we don't want to shimmy it off one of the sides, and that's the only real thing that I'm concerned with. Make sure we're as straight as we possibly can as we shimmy it. Oh, whole pallet sliding. Huh. So that was kind of not working. Also a little unsafe. This bandsaw actually has a lifting point up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole through this beam, and we're going to use a little bit of leverage or pulleys, and we're going to lift this thing up and then just slide under and set it down. And I'll be able to use this hole in the future if I need to do something like this again. So I got this big old spade bit on here, and we'll see how this goes. And I'm on a table with casters. We're not off to a good start. Lovely. Well, we are through, so that's good. I've just covered everything in sawdust. Let's rig something up. Here's what I ended up setting up in order to be able to do this. So this is called an Aztec. It's a rope rescue sort of device, and it's got a 4-to-1 pulley system with a prusik as well. And what this prusik does, it's tied into the top pulley. When you lift it up, this prusik will actually tighten. It'll come down and tighten, and that way when you let go of this main actual rope here, the whole thing will stay up, which will be a little bit tricky to do one-handed when I start letting it back down, but we'll have to figure that out. Also, to keep the ropes off of this rail, I put this little piece of cardboard up here, and just barely we're able to fit this in with the amount of space we have. So what I was having to do with this is actually hold that prusik back up in order to make it release and be able to let it back down. And luckily this thing wasn't so heavy that I couldn't still hold onto it with one hand, but ideally you would have someone else be able to release the prusik for you. While I'm taking all this down, I thought I would talk a little bit about this mechanical advantage we have going on here, because it's a pretty good example of it. So this pallet came in around 342 pounds, so I would guess that there's about 300-ish pounds in this piece right here. So I was able to lift that with just one hand more or less, or let that down, because it's a quarter of the weight because we have the 4-to-1. So if you look here, we have 4 ropes moving and 1 rope here, so 4-to-1. Using 1, 4 ropes are moving. That's the easiest way to look at something quickly and understand the mechanical advantage of it when you're using pulleys. Now prusiks are interesting because they are actually a rope that ties and loops around itself. It's hard to see, but I'll get a close-up for you. And the way it works is it actually cinches down on itself, and that's what allows it to be able to hold things. So we use it a lot in climbing, and in a rope rescue you use it a lot to be able to stop something. So let's say you're rappelling and you're coming down. Well, if you got hit by a rock coming down, then you let go, you would just fall straight to the ground. So you back up your rappel device with a prusik or some sort of similar device, and that way if you were to get hit by something or a bee attacks you or anything like that and you let go of your rope, the prusik actually catches you, which is pretty interesting. Now I had very little room up here, so I had to do some manipulating, and I just used some of this smaller cordage here, which this cordage is rated for several thousand pounds. I can't remember exactly, but I use it for I use it sometimes for making climbing gear. So this is one of those prusik hitches, and there's actually multiple types of these hitches. This one in particular is a prusik, and all it really is, if you look at this other one, is it's just a loop of cordage, and it's got some sort of knot at the end. This one's sewn, and it's got this sleeve over it. But you can make one of these at home by just watch a YouTube video to make sure you get a good solid knot on the end. Specifically one for a prusik helps because it's designed to lay a little bit flatter. But the way this works is, let's assume that you are climbing up this rope. It's just the easiest example. So you're climbing up, and as you climb up, this will kind of slide with you. Now this is a pretty small one, so it sticks easily. But if you're attached to this end of the rope and you were to fall, you see how it cinches down on itself? That right there is very, very strong. And the more loops you put in there, the stronger it is. And in order to release that, you need to pick up on it to be able to push it again. But it slides up and down freely until literally in any direction it catches. Some of these hitches only will catch in one direction. So that's what's unique and good about this prusik hitch, is that it catches in both directions and then is super easy to slide back and forth. So I have it on the base now. It's time to finish putting it together. The first thing I had to do was install this handle, which just slides on. It's got a little set screw. And then remove the blade. Add this little bolt here. This is going to be like a positive stop for the table. And now we're going to bolt on the table. This thing looks very heavy. It's in a box right over here, so I'm going to grab it and set it on. And it looks like it's covered in grease, which is always so much fun. Oh gosh. Oh. All right. Just searching for the actual mounting points. Oh wow. Okay, so this thing's like kind of mounted offset, so it wants to flop around. I'm just grabbing a couple screws here so I can get this at least held temporarily in place. So I can add some more. Oh god. All right, I have one of those in. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of them in. All these are pretty simple. You just got one bolt, then a lock washer, then a standard washer, and the holes are relatively easy to get to. I say they are. 5 hours later. Ow! I'm using one of these kind of interesting ratcheting wrenches, which are kind of interesting. Bendable, I think they're called a ratcheting wrench. I don't know what these are actually called, but the ones that actually have a ratchet in them. So I'm going to call them a ratcheting wrench, but this one kind of bends down, which helps make this process a lot easier. And I picked the wrong size. I guess it's a 13 millimeter. Yes, 13 mil. Just like that, the table is on. I don't even think there's much left. I got to do the fence, and I think wire it up. Put a blade on it. Look here. Put the fence on. I need to adjust the blade and everything, obviously. And I also need to wire it. But that's it. That's all there was. All right, I'm going to put the fence on. It's just going to be a couple bolts, I'm sure. And I'll show you after that's done. We'll get into the wiring, because wiring might be a little bit more difficult to decipher. So it was actually the next day. I had to run out and get some plugs for this machine because it requires a 20 amp 120 volt plug if you go that route. I didn't have any of those laying around. So what I did, I'm just going to show you the whole kind of electrical setup real quick. I didn't film any of it because it was just ended up being so simple that I think I can show you without actually showing the process and make it much faster. So here we go. So if you're wondering what a 20 amp plug looks like, this is it. It's got the little sideways one. So this is a 120 20 amp plug. This is a 120 20 amp outlet. Our entire shop, when we wired it with 20 amp outlets. I'm glad I did now, which means I can use this anywhere in the shop. So this thing actually comes with a pretty short cord. It's only about 5-ish feet long. So what I did was I went to the hardware store. I picked up some 12 3 gauge wire here. So that means it's 12 gauge, has 3 wires in it. And I also picked up another male and female plug so that I could just make a 12-foot extension cord. And I just kind of have it wrapped up with Velcro here, and it sits back here. And if I need more, I can, always use that extension cord. And it's nice to have that extension cord for some of our bigger equipment. And I think it was only about $12-ish to make, maybe closer to 15. So it wasn't bad. But that's basically it. And as far as wiring goes, all I had to do was take this cover off here. Just take the cover off. And they actually do a pretty good job here of explaining it. Basically, the only thing you're going to change is what is in that, underneath that cover right there. And all that is it goes from having 3 wire nuts in this configuration to only having 2 wire nuts in this configuration. They're all color coded, super easy. So basically you're just going to take both black wires, hook them to the red one, and hook the white, gray, and yellow together. And that's it. From that to that. That's all it was. And it works. Ready? It's a lot quieter than I expected. So what we're going to do, I guess to kind of finish this little video off, we're going to set up a little board and send it through and see what happens. I haven't actually adjusted the guides or anything, but you'll get to see this saw in action in some other videos. So I'm not going to go into too much actually using it today. I just wanted to get it set up, have it ready in the shop for when we need it. So let's get some boards out and see what this thing's made of. All right, guys, I got 9 1/4 inches of pine here. I loaded up a 3/4 inch blade To be exact, this is the blade I loaded up. It's time to see what she's made of. Also guys, I forgot to mention that I added this upgraded rip or resaw fence here. So it's got a higher fence and it's a little bit nicer on the other side as well. So let's do something, let's do 1/4 of an inch. See what we get. I forgot to turn on dust collection. I actually have dust collection. So just like that, we can now do some resawing on this channel and start making some even cooler projects. So check that out. It is so clean, so nice. This board's not very straight, so this piece isn't exactly the same thickness because it had a pretty big bow in it. But that cut so easily. And as someone who has struggled to get a bandsaw to cut straight for so many years, it is so nice to finally have something in the shop that I actually want to use. So that's going to wrap up this short video. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below and tell me you would like to see some more of this kind of impromptu, smaller stuff around the shop. And I guess I'll see you guys next week or sometime later this week. I don't exactly know what the schedule is going to be. I'm just going to try to pump out some of the smaller content. Oh, with that said, I guess I'll see you guys later. I'll just sit over here and enjoy the new bandsaw.